If you follow me on Instagram, then you're familiar with this hallway. It's the entrance hall to my apartment, and, well, it didn't look like this when I moved in. You can see some of what it took to get to this point in a couple of videos that I've linked down below in the description from my archive collection. Now, in this video, I'll give you a little tour and show you some of its features and its quirks and, well, let you know how I put it all together. This apartment was a bit of a wreck when I moved in. It had been a rental apartment for many years, and it was a great example of the landlord special, and neglected to boot. The nice thing about it was that it gave me carte blanche to do what I wanted. I've always been fascinated by wallpaper, and the 1970s was the penultimate era for it. Flocks, foils, bold geometric patterns, saturated color schemes, everything was fair game back then. This wallpaper was a fortunate find at a thrift shop in Palm Springs, and there was enough to really do something with it. It's a silver foil from Sanitas, and the soft color scheme suggested the other choices in the room. I've always loved architectural drama. Frank Lloyd Wright was particularly good at that. One of the common features in his work is compression and release. That means that he would give a transitional space a low ceiling, and then the space it transitions to a high one. Now, I couldn't do anything about the height of the ceilings in the rest of the apartment, but I could lower the ceiling in the hall. To add to the drama, I decided to bring the drop ceiling in from the walls and put lights behind it to reflect on the walls around and the ceiling above. Now, we made some mistakes with this. It's tied to the other lighting in the ceiling on one dimmer switch, and it's just a rope light, so it doesn't really show up that much. It should have been on a separate switch, so when the other lights were dimmed, it could be at full brightness. And it really should have been LED strips. I may change it out for them eventually. My contractor suggested painting the original ceiling black to give an infinity effect. The drop ceiling is papered in a faux tortoise foil pattern wallpaper, a pattern you'll see repeated in my work quite a bit, and in another room in this apartment. I installed can lights in the drop ceiling for general lighting and eyeball fixtures to highlight the art on the walls. Also installed in the ceiling is a box for this hanging lamp. It's a Brutalist torch-cut brass fixture that really evokes the era of the early to mid-1970s. It features candelabra bulbs that flicker with an orange glow that I remember being fascinated by when I was a child. The building had a notification system installed back in the 80s that was antiquated and unused by the time I moved in. It consisted of a phone on the wall that would ring when the front desk wanted to let someone upstairs. And, well, it was connected to the doorbell button outside, and it made the most atrocious sound when the doorbell was rung. I decided that it had to go. I found a vintage doorbell on eBay and had it installed. Now there's a pleasant when someone's at the door. I considered having a more elaborate chime bell installed, but, well, it would have taken up a lot of space on the wall, and they were much more expensive, so I kept it simple. Let's talk about some of the more practical features. Because the space is so narrow, there wasn't a lot of room for furniture. I like the practicality of what they refer to now as a landing strip, so I set about looking for a solution. What I came up with is a vintage fireplace mantel. I bought this one off Craigslist and painted it and antiqued it myself. As landing strips are, it's the perfect spot to drop things when coming in the door or a place to put things that are going out. The only other furniture in the room is this small console at this end of the hall, and it was another fortunate Craigslist find, and the finish suggested the one that I applied to the mantel. Above the console is a long mirror whose green frame coordinates nicely with the wallpaper. Another Craigslist find. This one came from New Jersey. It's long enough to get a full-length view from the other side of the hall, so it's perfect for last looks before heading out the door. Below it is one of my vintage phones you may have seen in a recent reel that I uploaded to my Instagram. The room is dominated by this large painting. Now, we don't have time to go into it here, but if you want to find out about its Hollywood pedigree, its ties to an original founder of the group theater, and how it came to be in my possession, I have a video about that over on my Patreon. Just go to patreon.com/Brini Maxwell. The size of the work might seem inappropriate for a small room like this because, well, it would seem that you can't get back far enough to appreciate it. However, the architecture of the apartment allows for a nice vista on it from the foyer beyond and even from the living room. The problem child in the room is the wall opposite the large painting. Right now, I have a collection of smaller vintage paintings on it depicting fall scenes, sort of a nod to the wall mural in my living room. I think it's attractive, but I'm not in love with it. Now, my original plan was to install a vintage Thibault mural called Memory Lane in the living room. I had a version of it from the 60s and the colors were lovely. I was being extra careful when I installed it and purchased a wallpaper liner from a local paint store who neglected to inform me that the liner had to be primed before I installed the paper over it. Needless to say, the installation failed, ruining the mural. So I had to shift gears and pick a different scheme. That's how I ended up with the fall mural that you'll see in my living room tour. Be sure to subscribe and hit the little notification bell to be notified when I post that. What I had planned to put on this wall was the wallpaper book sample of the original mural choice, framed and matted. Now, I suppose I could still do that as a sort of nod to what could have been. What do you think? Do you like the fall paintings? Should I frame the mural sample and put that here instead? Let me know in the comments below. The last thing to talk about here is the floor. Now, I had the idea early on to put down a cork tile throughout most of the apartment. I loved the colors and shapes available, and, well, it would have been beautiful. However, the installation instructions were complicated and essentially said I shouldn't install it over an existing parquet floor, so that and the cost of it put me off that idea. I didn't like the honey-colored parquet that was here. It was one of those landlord special touches, but I was running out of money, so I settled on painting the floors and putting down rugs. Now, it might seem counterintuitive to go with a Chinese red, but I was tying it into the fall colors on the wall mural. The rug here is one of the 3 I found on eBay at the time. Who knew that antique rugs could be so affordable? The ones I purchased aren't particularly good quality, but they get the job done. I may replace this one soon. It's getting a bit threadbare. So, that's my entrance hall. Thank you for coming along on this little tour with me. I hope you enjoyed it. Remember to have a gander at my Patreon for more on my Degas. You can join for free and read my blog there. Patrons also have access to a Discord server where we have discussions about vintage and retro subjects and a library of my back content. Thanks so much to these early adopter patrons who help make my videos possible with their membership. I'll be back with another video soon. Until then, bye now.